Wanna see me solo a Garg? Wanna see it again? Hey everyone, how you doing? Well, we're doing it. A long-awaited Plants vs. Zombies 2 challenge video. And oh boy, I've really selected an interesting idea here. Now, for those who may not know what this type of video is like, PvZ2 challenge videos are typically simple romps through the adventure mode in the game, and the goal is always to defeat Zomboss at the end of modern day. The catch with that is typically tied to the challenge of the video, and if you've seen my older content, you know what to expect. Vines only, mints only, all that good stuff. With that in mind, you probably saw the thumbnail, and you can probably guess what plants we're tackling PvZ2's adventure with. Yes, it's Pokra. I couldn't make this up if I tried. See, you would imagine the point of challenges is typically to be challenging, right? That's not how I see it. I see it as, how entertaining can I make a challenge? And this video is the result of that thought. So before we dive in, let's go over the typical PvZ2 challenge rules. If you've been around, then you know what to expect, but for brevity to those of you who don't know, 1. Pokra is my sole attacking plant. If the game forces me to exclusively use the plants it chooses in any level, such as a conveyor belt or lock and loaded level, they will be pardoned for the challenge. However, in levels where I do have leeway over what I can use, I won't use them at all. I do exceptions for this rule throughout the video, with the biggest one being sub-producers, but we'll discuss these as we go along. 2. No plant leveling, no Zen Garden usage, and no buying plant food or power-ups. Simple enough, though because I'm doing this on a completed save file, I have more starting sun and the bonuses of every world, such as mower launch. So I'll try not using these until we're at the point in the challenge where they would typically be unlocked, but otherwise, it's a pretty standard challenge. 3. I must beat every world in modern game order. This means past Wild West, we'll do Frostbite Caves, then Lost City, and you get the idea. I'll also be doing these levels in order too. I cannot skip a single level. Pretty normal stuff. These rules are all set in stone, and of course we'll discuss the exceptions I make for Rule 1 as we go along. But for now, let's answer the question of, can you complete Plants vs. Zombies 2 using only Pokra? Or to put it more realistically, what can't Pokra defeat in Plants vs. Zombies 2? I think most of us know the answer, but let's find out. Starting with Ancient Egypt, do you expect me to say anything about difficulty? No, like, seriously. Poor Ancient Egypt. This world got brutalized as time went on, and I almost feel bad for it. But that's a topic for a future video. As for how it fares in this challenge, yeah, it's pretty easy. The sarcophagus zombies are the only real threat here, and that's because they take a while to break. Even still, 2 Pokras immediately ruin the day of the zombie anyways. That's a running theme you're gonna see throughout this video, so you better get used to it. Something I briefly mentioned just a little bit ago was the Rule 1 exceptions, and you're seeing the big one here, sub-producers. This challenge would be impossible if I didn't allow myself to bring at least 5 in every level. There's a specific level I did this challenge with before I got started just to confirm this, and yeah, you'll see what I mean when we get there. If you don't consider this fair game, then that's okay, but consider how we're just using 1 plant for attacking here. That's pretty brutal regardless of how you look at it. In case you couldn't tell though, I have nothing else to add for Ancient Egypt, so Pirate Seas, okay. I forgot to get my footage initially for this world, so oops. But anyways, I think we should start playing a game for every world moving forward called Can Pokra Win? The premise is simple enough. Any of the tough zombies in each world will be pitted against her, and we'll see if she wins. So let's start with barrel rollers here. Yep, that's about what I expected. The rest of the zombies that I didn't mention here and in future worlds are simply not threats to me at all. Though something that did intrigue me about Pirate Seas is how much it's changed in the last year. I distinctly remember playing this world for a challenge last October, and Pirate Seas since then has gotten significantly easier. Like, they removed almost every coconut cannon minigame level, and they added random extra Sungo levels here and there too. Why? And finally, for the beginning worlds, we have Wild West, which is Wild West alright. Nothing here really sticks out to me. Oh, but before we continue, can Pokra win? Prospector zombies. Figured as much. Pianist zombies. Yeah, alright. Poncho zombies with the grate. Wow, that's brutal. And finally, zombie bulls. I mean, it's just not fair, is it? Special shoutout goes to chickens though, because one of the last stand levels was legitimately difficult due to Pokra's very slight delay between firing her missile and starting her next assault. I had to plant food micromanage HP for the Pokras who were isolated in their own lanes, which was stressful, but otherwise simple enough. These 3 worlds aren't ever that difficult overall, but there's still an interesting starting point for videos like these. Will things end up getting more challenging? Well, let's find out with... Do you like micromanaging in video games? No? That's too bad, because Frostbite Caves drills that idea into your skull and then some. The reason this world gets its own section is because it's possibly the only world before late game that gave me issues. And the one reason for that? No heat. See, in other challenge videos I've done in the past, I've had at least one fire plant to help out for the blizzard storms in this world. Not this time around though. I was actually kind of curious if I could beat this world without having a plant to melt ice. And yes, it's actually possible. Pokra is the gift that keeps on giving. Okay, so I should probably explain how I did this. And if you've been paying attention to the background footage, you can probably understand what I did here. You see these icy marks on the plants? Every time I saw this, I knew they were going to be frozen by icy winds eventually. So my plan of action was to wait until this happened, then plant a Pokra behind the frozen plants to break the ice. And if that back row Pokra got frozen too, I would just shovel them up and get some sun back. It's a very simple strategy, but it was more than enough to get the footage for this world in about an hour or so. Lucky me. There were definitely still problem levels in the world, like let's not get ahead of ourselves. Day 24 is genuinely one of the most annoying levels I've ever played because the ice storm hits really hard, really quickly, and there's weasels everywhere. It's so... I hate it. I hate it so much. But for the most part, this challenge breezes past Frostbite Caves. It's just a really interesting world that I wanted to talk about separately, so I did. You're welcome. Oh right, can Pokra win? Blockhead zombies, and really any tier 4s. What did you expect? Hunter zombie. Okay, Pokra actually needs backup here, but otherwise, yes. Slothgargs? Well, you already saw that in the intro, so this world was an outlier, but we'll go ahead and keep moving forward with... Lost City. The recording time for this world was a little over 40 minutes. Granted, I do skip the levels that are locked and loaded during my recordings, but wow. Can Pokra win? Excavator zombies. God, this plant is so stupid. Parasol I'm just kidding. Turquoise skull zombies though. Oh wow, okay, that's actually a solid matchup. It's too bad that the zombie appears in like 3 levels. No comment. Yeah, so this world is a load of nothing because it has like 10 levels that are locked and loaded, so... Far future, this one's interesting. In concept, it's easy, but also annoying. I guess a good way to show this is with... Can Pokra win? Shield zombies. While Pokras in other lanes attack the sides of the shield and do no direct damage, the Pokra in the same lane as the zombie pierces. Because of course it does. Robocone zombies. What do you think? One Pokra can solo a brickhead tier zombie. Of course it can win. Mecha football zombies. Well, there needs to be 2 Pokras, but yep, this matchup is pretty set in stone too. The issues of this world aren't necessarily with any one particular zombie, it's more so just ambush waves filled with bugbot imps that end up being the most frustrating thing to deal with here. But still, it's an overall easy enough world. And then there's Dark Ages. Oh no. Dark Ages is always a problem world, no matter what challenge you're facing it in. The lack of sun falling out of the sky makes you rely heavily on your sun producers, and if you have none, yeah, you fail immediately. Luckily, I did have the foresight to remember this issue, which is another reason why I made some producers okay to have. And sadly, we have to add a second clause to Rule 1 too. See, Gravebusters aren't particularly seen as a useful plant in this game outside of two worlds. The first is one you're well acquainted with, Ancient Egypt, but the second is Dark Ages. And unlike the former, this world has ambushes with these graves. This presents several problems on its own, but for the most part, Pokra can hold out fairly well against these ambushes. Unless the graves are on a tile she can't attack. And sadly, there's a point in this world where that's the exact case. So if you'd like to consider this a loss, then this is the world where this challenge has failed. No level of RNG can fix this one single gravestone. But as for me, I think it's fair game to allow myself the exception of Gravebusters if I can only technically use one plant for attacking anyways. I also made an exception for level 14 with the Sunbeam, but let's be honest, not giving myself an exception on a level like this is stupid. I've learned from my past mistakes, don't worry. Though even with those exceptions, this world is still pretty tedious and even difficult at some points. Night 12 is a particularly annoying level as Pokra finally has a counter in Can Pokra Win? Jesters. Yes, to an extent. That extent is shown in this level, where in some ambush waves, a bunch of Jester zombies pop up. And if you remember what I said earlier about her final combo attack, it's a piercing projectile. I don't think I need to tell you how destructive this can be if Jesters end up reflecting that, especially against the Puffshrooms you need to keep alive. Simply put, they die fast. I ended up beating this level by micromanaging plant foods to keep these little bastards alive, but it's really frustrating. You could tell because my JoJo's OVA audio was paused while recording my second run. Oh yeah, I was serious. But with that world out of the way, we only need to take care of 4 more, these being Okay, so this is typically where a challenge like this gets real. I was nearly tempted to split the video into 2 parts. Then I remembered this challenge is for one of the most overtuned plants in PvZ history. So needless to say, we're finishing this here and now. Neon Mixtape Tour is a big hurdle, but it honestly isn't too bad. Mostly. To show you what I mean, Can Pokra Win? Punk Zombies. Yes, she kills before the kicks connect. MC Zombies. She kills before the mic can be swung, so yes. Breakdancer Zombies, what do you think? Hair Metal Gargs. Kind of. You need to place a lot of them, but Pokras can still win. With that section, I think you can begin to understand how this world is actually okay, though I do have to start relying on a particular strategy for the worlds moving forward. See, I'm technically allowed to use the mower launch, however, I've been trying my best to not use it until I got past Far Future, and I succeeded in that. But after Dark Ages, yeah, it kind of becomes something I need to use a lot more often. Whether it's due to the worlds just being more zombie-packed than ever before, or it's due to me wanting to extend my sun producing before I place Pokras down, mower launching becomes an essential part of each level moving forward. And the perfect world to show that off is Jurassic Marsh, which is very tedious. The dinosaurs. Ooh, if these were compatible, I'd put them in Can Pokra Win. But alas, we have to face these monsters on our own. And luckily, there's a strategy to countering every single one that I've had to figure out. For raptors, all that needs to happen is placing Pokras in the 8th column of the lawn, as Pokras can kill zombies quick enough to where the raptor won't have anything to kick in their walking cycle. It's not foolproof, but it works fine. For the Stegosaurus, I had to get a little more creative by doing the exact same thing. Okay. For pterodactyls, I did the same thing again. Okay, you get the idea. By making Pokra sit as close as she can to the zombie entrance points, the dinosaurs are effectively rendered useless. For the most part. The Ankylosaurus though. Oh no, this thing is actually pretty challenging. While the zombies don't end up being much of an issue in this world, they do become one when this particular dino is on the board. The reason is very simple. It can push Pokra back. And that opens up the gate to any other dinos, besides T-Rex because that one is hard countered, to wreak havoc. Luckily, this dino is very late game for this world, so it doesn't appear often, but it's still frustrating. Though overall, Jurassic Marsh is still a somewhat manageable experience. The world might be a little bit difficult, but it can still be completed under our rule set. So that leaves two worlds then, Big Wave Beach and Modern Day. Oh boy. We'll go ahead and get the more interesting world out of the way, the former. Big Wave Beach is problematic, and it's actually where even more clauses for Rule 1 come into play. See, lily pads don't entirely seem essential to the world, at least initially, but they're a borderline necessity for some levels, and for a few in particular, they are essential if you're playing by the rule set. So lily pads will be in every level we have to play. Alongside this, there's one particular level here where you protect banana launchers, and these are, in my opinion, completely fair game to use. They're absolutely crucial for completing this level, and we'll explain why with Can Pokra Win? Snorkel Zombies. Provided that there's two Pokras in one lane back to back, Snorkels can't even kill the first Pokra, let alone get far enough to fight the second. Surfer Zombies. Yes, if there's a Pokra in their line of sight while the water is down, no if they're surfing. Octo Zombies. If there's a plant in front of a Pokra, they win eventually. And Fisherman Zombies. Yes, she can win if there's two in one lane, but oh no, they're actually kind of a problem. The bulk of Big Wave Beach is spent with me strategizing against the threat of two things, those being low tides and fisherman zombies. Low tides are easy enough to deal with, especially with a plant that has extreme piercing such as Pokra, but fisherman zombies are a different issue entirely. The big problem with these guys is that they drag multiple lily pads, which means my backline Pokra defense can get exposed occasionally, which is obviously not ideal. The world is still possible overall, but there's plenty of close calls here and there. Which leads me to Modern Day. And it's weird, I don't actually have much to say for this world. Ironically, it's kind of the easiest world to deal with in many ways. I've developed so many patterns and I've optimized my setup so much that at a certain point, nothing in Modern Day phases me. Most of the footage you're seeing here is just nothing. It's just me countering everything on screen, but I've already explained how I counter everything, so what is there to say? Though, there are two more things I need to claim for. Can Pokra Win? All-Star Zombies. No. But you can place a second Pokra behind the one that gets destroyed, and look who's triumphant in the end. And finally, for our little game here, Super Fan Imps. You know, the ones that All-Stars sometimes kick? Even these little bastards get hard countered by Pokra. They can't explode fast enough to escape Pokra's meaty claws. When both of those zombies are accounted for, and believe me, they're not difficult to consider, this world is overall very easy, save one level. Level 30. For reference, even in my other challenge videos, this level has given me problems. The real issue is micromanaging with the zombies and limited resources you have. And I had to really cheese the Sun Producer spam in order to win. If you don't like me beating this level like this, then consider it this way. Pokra is so strong that she can win by herself in every level in the game. And the final level that's counted for this challenge is too easy after level 30 is such a pain. It's a bittersweet ending, really. Pokra can beat the entirety of Plants vs. Zombies 2 on her own, but she needs so much help along the way that it almost feels as if she didn't do anything. That's saying a lot, considering how I just went through well over 200 levels of pain, but it's really the main takeaway I have for this challenge. For being one of, if not the most overpowered plant in Plants vs. Zombies 2, Pokra sure does have her fair share of weaknesses, doesn't she? But hey, flaws make us human, so they say. And I'm glad she has flaws at all. It shows that the devs that made her weren't completely zoned out. And I consider that to be a positive in a sea full of negatives. And with that, I'll end this video here. Thank you all so much for watching until the end, I deeply appreciate it. You could consider this video the start of a new era on my channel, so to speak, as I've handled this video so differently from anything else I've done in recent months. And I hope this change has been a good one. Tell me your thoughts there in the comments down below. Also, I'd like to give one big final shout out to my extra Wise-Eye channel members, those being Dan B, Glitch into Code 867, Nicholas Vankowski, Song, and Johnny Homeowner. alongside my one normal member. Thank you all so much for your continued support. Y'all rock. And now, as for me here, I'm gonna go, finish that JoJo's OVA. So, peace.
Iggy, get out of here! He's still alive!